Here's a shocking truth. Most people over 60 don't grow weaker because they're getting older, but because their bodies have stopped hearing the critical signals that keep muscle alive. And once you understand those signals, you can slow down, and in some cases even reverse, the quiet muscle loss happening every day. I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself something honestly. Are you doing everything right, eating healthy, walking regularly, yet still feeling weaker, slower, and slower to recover? If the answer is yes, the problem may not be your effort. It may be how your body is responding to that effort. Over the years in my medical practice, I've met many people who believe that eating enough protein or adding a so-called superfood like sardines was enough to protect their strength. And earlier in life, that may have been true. But after 50, and especially after 60, the body plays by different rules. Muscle no longer responds automatically. Protein no longer turns into strength by default. In this video, I want to help you understand why that happens, and more importantly, how to send the right signals again, so your body remembers that strength is still required. You know, over the years, many people have sat across from me in my clinic and started the conversation the exact same way. Doctor, I eat healthy. I eat sardines regularly. I walk every day, but somehow I keep getting weaker. Maybe you felt that way too. You still get out of bed every morning. You can still carry your groceries. You can still climb the stairs. But deep inside, something has changed. Nothing dramatic, nothing painful, just a quiet sense that your body doesn't feel as solid as it used to. I want you to imagine this for a moment. Your body is like a house that was built many years ago. When you were younger, every brick was strong. Every meal and every movement acted like a hard-working repair crew, constantly fixing small cracks before they became a problem. But after 50, and especially after 60, that repair crew starts showing up less often. And sometimes it stops showing up altogether. The most frightening part isn't that the house suddenly collapses. It's that it slowly, silently deteriorates. One of my patients, a 63-year-old man, once said something to me that I'll never forget. "What scares me isn't getting older," he said. "It's the feeling that I'm slowly disappearing from my own body." He wasn't seriously ill. No stroke, no major diagnosis. But year after year, he felt weaker, slower, less stable, and he couldn't understand why. He ate sardines. He had heard they were a longevity food. He truly believed he was doing the right thing, and he wasn't wrong. But he also wasn't doing enough. Sardines are a wonderful food. They're rich in omega-3s, high-quality protein, and essential micronutrients. I'm not against sardines. I eat them myself. But here's the part that often gets overlooked. After the age of 60, muscle needs more than just one good food. Because muscle isn't just what helps you lift objects or walk across a room. Muscle is a living organ. It regulates blood sugar. It determines whether you burn fat or store it. It keeps your hormones working in rhythm. When muscle declines, everything else starts to fall out of balance. Many people think muscle loss is just about appearance. After 3 decades in medicine, I can tell you, it's much more serious than that. People with less muscle fall more easily. They recover more slowly. They become more insulin resistant. They develop more inflammation. And quite often, they age faster. What troubles me the most is this. Most people who are losing muscle don't even realize it's happening. There's no alarm, no sharp pain, no urgent warning sign. Just a quiet loss, 1% per year, maybe 2%. And by the time they notice, nearly 30% of their muscle is already gone. Then the questions begin. Why am I eating more protein but still getting weaker? Why am I exercising yet my body isn't responding? Is this just what aging looks like? I want you to hear this clearly because it matters. Muscle doesn't disappear because you get older. It disappears because the body stops receiving the right signals. Age itself doesn't destroy muscle. Biological silence does. When you're young, a simple protein-rich meal sends a clear message. Repair, rebuild. But after 60, that message weakens. Protein still enters the body, but it doesn't reach the place it's meant to go. It gets burned for energy. It gets wasted. It's like delivering building materials to a construction site where no one is working. And this is where so many well-intentioned people go wrong. They think, then I'll just eat more. But muscle doesn't need more. It needs the right signal. It needs leucine. It needs resistance. It needs deep, restorative sleep. It needs an internal environment that isn't dominated by inflammation and insulin resistance. I've watched patients in their 70s regain strength, not because they ate more food, but because for the first time in years, their body finally received a message it could understand. And that's what I want to share with you in this video. Not to scare you, but to remind you of something important. Weakness is not an inevitable part of aging. If you've ever felt like your body is slowly drifting away from you, if you've ever wondered why things feel harder even though you're trying, then stay with me. Because once you understand what muscle truly needs after 60, you stop eating and exercising blindly. You start sending the right signals. And when the right signals are sent, even at this stage of life, the body can still respond. After working with thousands of patients over the age of 50, I've come to an important realization. Most people don't lose muscle because they're doing something terribly wrong. They lose muscle because they're missing a few quiet but essential signals the body needs every day. We talk a lot about protein. We talk about sardines. We talk about eating clean and healthy, but we rarely talk about sleep. I've seen many patients who eat enough protein and exercise regularly, yet continue to grow weaker. When I ask deeper questions, the answers are often the same. I don't sleep deeply anymore. I wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I thought sleeping less was just part of getting older. But the body doesn't see it that way. Poor sleep raises cortisol, the stress hormone. At the same time, growth hormone, the hormone responsible for repair and recovery, drops. The result is that muscle is broken down even while you believe you're resting. You can eat all the right foods. You can train consistently, but if sleep isn't deep and restorative, the body chooses to break down muscle first. This brings me to another critical point. Sarcopenia is not caused by aging itself. I know this challenges what many people have been told, but both science and decades of clinical experience are very clear. Muscle doesn't disappear simply because you get older. It disappears because the right biological signals are no longer being delivered. When you're younger, a normal protein-rich meal automatically sends a message: repair, rebuild. After 60, that message weakens. Protein still enters the body, but it's no longer directed toward muscle repair. There's not enough leucine. There's not enough mechanical stimulation from resistance training. Hormonal support is no longer optimal. Muscle is no longer being called upon, and it begins to withdraw. This is why eating sardines, or any single superfood, is not enough to protect muscle after 60. Not because sardines aren't healthy, but because muscle requires a complete signaling system. High-quality protein is just one piece. Leucine is the ignition key. Resistance training reminds the body that muscle is still needed, and recovery, sleep, and inflammation control is when rebuilding actually happens. Miss one piece, and the system doesn't work. I want you to start thinking of muscle in a completely different way, not as appearance, not as strength alone, but as the most powerful anti-aging organ in the body. Muscle regulates blood sugar after every meal. It determines whether you burn fat or store it. It keeps hormones functioning in balance. And research consistently shows that people with more muscle have a significantly lower risk of all-cause mortality. When muscle declines, blood sugar becomes harder to control. Excess glucose is converted into fat, especially visceral fat. Visceral fat drives inflammation. Inflammation worsens insulin resistance, and insulin resistance accelerates muscle loss. This is a quiet biological spiral, and many people are caught in it without realizing it. One of the most overlooked factors in this process is leucine. I often tell patients this. Protein does not automatically become muscle. Leucine is the switch. After the age of 60, most people need about 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in a single meal to activate muscle protein synthesis. If that threshold isn't reached, protein is burned for energy, like firewood, rather than used as building material. This is why whole eggs outperform egg whites when it comes to muscle preservation. Egg whites contain protein, yes, but the yolk contains vitamin D, choline, and phospholipids, nutrients that amplify the muscle-building signal. Studies show that when protein intake is equal, whole eggs stimulate muscle protein synthesis far more effectively than egg whites alone. The body doesn't just need bricks, it needs mortar. Another silent disruptor is fatty liver. The liver plays a central role in processing amino acids and regulating insulin. When the liver becomes dysfunctional, recovery signals never fully reach muscle tissue. Protein is consumed, but the body doesn't know how to use it properly. Many people also believe they must lift heavy weights to preserve muscle. That's simply not true. For adults over 60, 2 to 3 resistance training sessions per week are enough. No extreme weights, no pain, just consistent mechanical signals that tell the body, these muscles still matter. And finally, we can't ignore micronutrients. Vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins are essential for the enzymes involved in muscle repair. When these are deficient, the machinery slows down. Protein may be present, but the system doesn't run. When you put all of this together, one truth becomes very clear. Muscle doesn't disappear because you're getting older. Muscle disappears when the body stops being spoken to in the language it understands. Before we finish, I'd like you to pause for just a moment and ask yourself one honest question. Are you living in a body you assume will simply take care of itself over time? Or have you begun to sense that if you don't act intentionally, your body will slowly begin making decisions for you? After more than 30 years as a physician, I can tell you this with complete sincerity. Aging doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, through small signals we either listen to or ignore. Muscle is no different. It doesn't disappear because you're getting older. It disappears when the body no longer receives the message, you are still needed. The good news is this. If a signal can fade, it can also be sent again. With the right understanding, with patience, and by starting with the fundamentals, eating with intention, sleeping deeply, moving intelligently, and allowing your body the recovery it deserves. If something in this video made you stop and think, if even one sentence made you nod and say to yourself, yes, that's exactly how I've been feeling, then I invite you to do one small thing. Please click like so YouTube knows that thoughtful, science-based health content for mature adults truly matters. Share this video with a friend, a partner, or a family member because someone you care about may be quietly losing muscle without realizing it. And leave a comment below. How old are you? What concerns you most about your body as the years go by? I read your comments, and many future videos on this channel are created directly from your questions and experiences. And finally, if you'd like to continue receiving content that is science-based but easy to understand, calm, reflective, and practical, designed to help you stay strong, independent, and resilient after 50, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We can't go back to being young, but we can absolutely choose to age with awareness, strength, and intention. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next video.